Good
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the Finance Committee. It is Thursday, February 19th, 2026. I have 4:03. We have 3 members Zooming today, Paul, Kate, and Roy. Do I have any public comment items not on the agenda? I forgot to say, this meeting will be video recorded and broadcast over local access channel 8 and to the town website at www.eastham-ma.gov. Does anybody have any public comment? I'd like to make a few words. From my perspective, it's been a tragic week here today and through this past week. We mourn the loss of 2 beloved Eastham residents, and I want to thank the first responders for their efforts. Does anybody else have any public comment? The next item on the agenda is the minutes of our prior meeting, February 12th, and thank you, Mira, for putting that together for us. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of February 12th, 2026?
I can make that motion. It's Kate
Okay,
on
yep.
Zoom.
Do I have a
I'll
second?
second.
Roy,
Yes.
is there any further discussion on the minutes of February 12th? All in favor? We are all present. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Roy, Paul, and Kate. 9-0. On to our agenda. And the first item on the agenda is the community development, and we have Paul Lag with us here today. And we do have new paperwork that Mira has passed out. So I just want to make sure that everybody has it, or one way or the other.
And I'll be sharing it on screen too.
I'm sorry?
I'll be sharing it on screen too.
Oh, you're going to be sure. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're on to community development, and I don't know how you want, let Rich or Paul, how you want to proceed.
I'll let Paul get right to it, except I do want to update you. I don't have the exact amounts because I printed it out, but I forgot to grab it before I came down here. So I'll ask Mira to get it in a second. But there are a couple of things as we go through these budgets, I'm pointing out to you the things that haven't been included that have been asked to have been included. And actually, I'll just wait till Mira gets the thing so I don't misspeak. So I'll just turn it over to Paul and I'll fill that in later. Mira up on the finance printer is I printed some things out I could grab. Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, Paul Lag, I'm the Director of Community Development. Lovely to be with you here today. I'll just give a brief overview. I think we all know each other, but really not much has changed in the Community Development Department. But my department's made up of 3 divisions: the Building Division, Planning Division, and the Housing Division. We have staff of 8, including myself. That's comprised of myself, the Community Development Director. I also serve as the town planner. We have 1 full-time building commissioner, 1 part-time plumbing and gas inspector, 1 part-time electrical inspector, full-time assistant planner, full-time housing coordinator, 1 full-time administrative assistant who focuses on building and planning divisions, and a full-time administrator who is split between administrative assistants to the housing division, and also she serves as our CPA coordinator. Just briefly, I think this is in the department overview, but really our focus within the 3 divisions for this past year and really going into FY27 for planning is really focusing on the tea time, town center development, redevelopment. We have a number of zoning amendments that'll be forthcoming for this town meeting, so that's taken up a lot of energy. In the housing division, we have a number of housing redevelopment projects, specifically 580 Massasoit Road, the Salt Marsh condo complex off Route 6, and the former motel, which is across the street from Town Hall here. Those are all in progress. We're also running a number of successful housing programs, most notably, and most recently, the Lease to Locals program, which creates year-round housing opportunities. And in the inspectional services, the building division, really the new requirement under the state requirement for short-term rental inspections has really taken up a lot of space in the department. Our building commissioner is really working diligently to keep up with that new requirement and trying to work it into our department capacity, and he's been doing a great job on that. So those are kind of the big ticket items. Obviously, of course, that for day-to-day activities revolve around resident services, inspectional services, and regulatory services. We provide staff support to the planning board, zoning board, community preservation committee, affordable housing committee, strategic planning committee, and the historic district, Old Town Center Historic District Commission, and the Historic Commission. Basically, with our budget this year, really no change other than minor increases in the staff development section, and that really stems from some increases in the fees for various workshops and trainings, a number of which are used to cover continuing education credits for staff. And we added a line item to cover the cost of license renewals for the building, plumbing, and electrical inspectors. But I believe other than that, all the other line items were stable.
And here's, I guess, what I'll add, and now that I got thank you, Mayor, for getting me the information. There were a couple areas. Paul mentioned the inspections and the short-term rental inspections. There had been talk about adding an additional inspector, which not only for the short-term rental, but just for some succession planning and capacity. You know, if you're having one building inspector that has a high level of responsibility and authority, when that person moves on, and they're very difficult positions to fill. So for the additional short-term rental inspections and for the backup, but we haven't included that in the budget, and that we, had anticipated that to be around $80,000 to $85,000 salary, and about $20,000 to $25,000 for benefits. So not in the budget though. And then also, these are some small items, but there had some, and I'm not sure if this would have been the right place to put it, but in my mind, it's where I was holding it. Community events. There was some discussion about having a small amount of funding to help sponsor some events. So that could have gone here or perhaps in the recreation area. That would have been about $2,500, but again, not in the budget. And recently we've been talking about having a volunteer luncheon in the fall at a cost of about $2,500. That is not in the budget. However, it's part of one of Paul's line items that when he gets there, it's the committee support line item, Paul.
Yep.
So that's where we'd end up taking that out of. Yes.
As far as the short-term rental inspections, who's doing the rental inspections now? And are they not doing it all the way through? Are they missing some, or what's
Well,
the detriment?
I'll let Paul explain first. Take a shot.
So the health department for many, many years has been operating a successful rental registration program. And so part of that is they perform inspections, and I believe they divvy them up. They basically try to do a third of the total every year on a revolving basis. And that's been very successful. And Eastham's really been ahead of the curve amongst other towns. So the new requirement, and that really dealt with, health and safety issues, but sanitary health code issues. The new requirement is really coming through the building code. And this requires that the short-term rentals be inspected by a building official dealing with building code and health safety issues. So what we've tried to do, so
Same annual, I mean, every 3 years type?
no, so the new requirement is that all of the short-term rentals need to be inspected annually. So we've been fortunate in that we kind of already had a structure with the health department's program, so we were already tracking the inspections. We already had a mechanism. We knew where they were and everything. So it's been a little bit easier for us compared to maybe some other towns to kind of get started with it and have a mechanism to channel all these inspections. But yeah, basically, it is a significant hurdle to get over because we do have a large amount of inspections. So again, as Rich mentioned, we anticipate maybe some needs in the future, but right now we are just adjusting schedules and trying to balance the workload with the staff that we have.
And I think that was the approach, knowing where we are with potential overrides, not to jump into overreacting, let our existing staff figure out exactly where we are, what's the workload, can we somehow absorb it? And when we get to the point of saying, no, we can't,
Can't do it.
and we actually have the actual experience behind us of that, then we'll have to contemplate what we do going forward.
Do we review them, the short-term rentals, once a year when they send in their request or is it done on some other basis?
Well, every property that is for rent has to register with the health
Right,
department
right.
annually.
Mhm.
So that's why I was saying we're already tracking them.
Right,
So now it's just a matter of we have to schedule
the time for
the
the,
time
for
for
the,
two
for the,
for
for the
two.
review to be done.
Yeah, so there's really kind of two inspections and we're trying to consolidate where we can so that we can go out and do the ones that are on the cycle for the health inspections, consolidate those with the building. But again, there's going to be, 2/3 of them that have to be done just by the building inspection alone. So obviously, we're looking for all the, consolidation and streamlining. We can do that. That's kind of ongoing. But like Rich said, this is kind of all brand new, like many things, the state just kind of came down with this requirement and now everyone's got to just do their best. And there's no funding or any assistance from the state. So, we're trying to just see what the level of the issue may
Need.
be and then adjust, in the future. So,
And then the other part of that is, there's a thought out there, Paul, if you talk about the need for those that rent to have some sort of certificate to prove to their insurance.
yeah, so this is really driven by the insurance companies. And when, there's been some tragic events with
Are you talking about Maggie's Law?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of the building code stuff comes driven through the insurance company that come down and then, these things get added into the building code. So, it is a benefit to
Oh,
the
yeah.
owner, obviously, to have this. And, for those that, purposefully or otherwise, just they may have issues with, not having the correct smoke detectors, not having correct adequate egress, all kinds of, there's all kinds of things that happen. So, I think it's an added um, piece of work for the department and the town to absorb, but there is a significant safety and obviously, an insurance. It all comes back to your insurance and your liability savings on the property owner. So these things kind of have to work together.
Do you feel we have a good sense of all of the houses that are used for short-term rentals? Because I think sometimes you hear of towns where houses are being used as short-term rentals, but they haven't registered. They don't want to pay, they don't want to go through and
I mean,
access.
to be honest, that'd probably be a question better for Hillary to answer more directly. But to my knowledge, the town is doing a good job accounting for all of them. I don't think we have a very, very low percentage, to my knowledge, of
No,
ones that we
people
don't
aren't
account.
registered
Yeah,
properly.
and it really, the staff and the health department does a good job at they monitor these things and look for, if they see, they have a whole system where they are matching their records with things they see online. If something pops up and it's like they're not in the records, they address that.
Mary,
So that's helped the building department.
So does the building inspector, him or herself, have to do these inspections?
Yes.
And you mentioned smoke detectors. Does the fire department get involved?
But I'll bring this one up because I was going to mention it, but there's pending legislation that will now also require fire inspections separate from the building inspections.
But right now, the building inspector is cursory looking at the fire,
Yes.
making sure they work, the lights on. Right,
Yes.
but they're not looking at deeply into it. As-
So,
And when Peter.
Go ahead,
And
sir.
so the health department inspection is scheduled at a separate time now.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're trying wherever possible to consolidate the inspections, so we're going out once, but even still, it's not 1-to-1 inspections because
Well, the health is 1/3 a year, as in the building is 100% a year.
Right.
But they both
So-
have to be done, right? Separately?
But the point being that you're consolidating 1/3 and one.
The health inspector can't do this new inspection. It has to be done by a building.
correct.
Yes.
But the building has to be done yearly,
And
Yes.
whereas we're allowed to have this rotating one of the health.
any issues in access to the houses? I mean, getting in private property and all that stuff?
Well, it's all coordinated with the property owners, or if they have a management company. So
They
it's all
wanna do a
scheduled.
Short-term rental, they have to allow inspectors in.
Correct. Yeah.
That's part of the difficulty because, especially if you need some sort of certificate for your insurance company.
Yeah.
Before you rent, well, you're probably gonna have that inspection the first part of the year when you're probably not here, right? So,
So from what the building commissioners told me so far, a lot of the properties that are, using some of the bigger rental companies like around, they're already ahead of this because they're dealing with in other towns and even in some other states. So they're kind of ahead of the game getting the paperwork in. They already know they're going to need the certificate and the inspection. So that's been helpful too. So there's a little bit more of a learning curve for, just folks that are just renting their own properties and, so we're trying to work as best we can to get the knowledge out there, get the information out there and get these things scheduled now so that we're not backed up,
How many-
in
how
May
many
when
do
everyone's
we
ready
have?
to go.
In the
How many
summer.
short-term rentals do we have, roughly?
900.
Yeah.
900?
Yeah,
And so there's 900 additional inspections for that the building official's gonna have to do
Yes.
annually.
Annually.
Yes.
And we're gonna try to do that without increasing the budget next year?
What about revenue side? You can't increase the revenue side to,
We could, but again, we're just kind of feeling our way
The
through this.
Registration process, yeah.
and if they don't get this inspection done, does the owner not? They're not insured, or what's the downside to the owner?
Well, they're required by law to have this certificate from the building department. So technically they would be unable to rent. They'd be in violation of that. And they'd be at their own risk if anything were to happen.
So, 900 inspections and there's, 240, 230 work days in a year. So,
Plus, you got a pretty good sized workload coming into the spring
Yeah,
with all the.
and it's not throughout the year, it's all front loaded.
How long does the inspection take? Past, you don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think honestly, I know that it depends, if someone's no issues and they got everything on the checklist, it could be very quick, but if they're missing things or there's issues,
I
I
think
think
it's
it's kind of case by case.
I think it's the follow-up that becomes time consuming.
So could we do like an inspection fee, like add on a fee for the inspection or?
We already have a short,
already have
we
it.
already have a short-term rental registration fee. So that, going forward, that's an option to increase that to cover the cost of,
Increase that fee rather than a separate fee?
but that's, obviously anytime we change a fee, we got to contemplate the consequence. So,
Of people not wanting to pay it,
Yep.
the ramifications.
So I'll just mention that, obviously this is a new requirement on top of the day-to-day building inspection, so the normal inspections for normal projects, and there's also the commissioner has reviews plans for regulatory. So I'll just put a quick plug in for one of the zoning amendments that will be forthcoming for this year was to amend the zoning administration section to allow others, and I should back up, the building commissioner is the designated zoning enforcement officer, so they're basically tasked with a lot of stuff under the zoning bylaw. So I'm proposing some changes to allow some of the administrative items, non-inspections, non-building code related items to be done by other staff within the department. So basically it would boil down to doing zoning determinations, things that keep the regulatory planning board, zoning board applications so that the building commissioner doesn't have to be the sole person doing the inspections, doing the decision letters and all that kind of stuff. So just trying to balance workload. So you'll see that as one of the zoning amendments, and it's meant to try to accommodate this situation.
Are those zoning issues going to be warrant articles?
Yes.
So at some point, we'll have to have a discussion on the zoning warrant articles.
And we just so everybody knows, we started the warrant this week, drafting it. We
Yeah.
got pretty much most things will be in by tomorrow. Then we're gonna start reviewing it and since I'm talking, our next select board, I anticipate maybe having that draft at the next select board meeting,
Okay.
as well as an executive session on our collective bargaining, which will hopefully wrap all that up at the next select board meeting. Not to get ahead of ourselves or to speak for the chair, but that's what we're anticipating. And then when you have that, then we can start bringing it back to Hugh.
Right.
So in early March, you'll have all that stuff to see how you want to set that up for review.
Okay, I have another question, and it's on page 92. Rich, you have a comment here. CPC contributes $40,000 of funding for CPC admin assistant salary. I don't believe we're doing that anymore.
Right, for 25 and 26.
Right.
That's what it says in 20. So not for 27.
Right, so it's, mine just says, it doesn't have the years on it, just, the newer one you've added. Oh, okay.
I don't recall that I did, but it's got there.
I'm on the old one because that's what I did all my
Okay.
work and review on the old sheets.
So just so the full committee knows, so that's an option for us, right? So in my initial, as you might recall, I made a mistake and thought we were balanced. And then when I realized I had the mistake with the water, we weren't. So initially knowing that we're balanced, I removed the CPC contribution of 40,000 in 27.
Right.
Theoretically, we could go and ask for it back to help minimize. But at the end of the day, this is a position, especially with all the stuff that's going on, project-wise and inspection-wise. We really need this position not only to provide support to CPC, but just to the general operation of the department. So I thought it best to take out that CPC support, still dedicate to provide CPC with the support, but pay for it on our tax levy. But if things are really tight and we need to do that, we could go back and ask you, Mary, at the CPC.
It's in the operating budget for
Yes.
27.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see here.
Talk a little bit about the lease to locals and how that's going. Is that being utilized?
It is, and I know I should defer to Rich too, because he was integral in getting it started, but we have currently provided 6 grants to homeowners to date, which 18 people total have been provided with housing. And the grants awarded have ranged between $5,000 and $15,000.
And that's a one-time grant to the owner, the landlord, whatever. And what's their commitment to, how long do they have to keep it as a year-round rental?
Well, it's year to year, the leases. But the hope is that, and the experience from other towns that have done this has been, first of all, the subsidy goes to the homeowner that's converting from a short-term rental
Right.
to a year-round rental. So you have to have been a short-term renter. And so the experience has been that people have found that this hasn't incentivized them to make the move and that they're not going back to short-term rentals, even though there's no guarantee of the program continuing in the future. So it's something like it's like 75 or 80% retention rate, so to speak. But we do have some money available to us, and we have a request at this upcoming town meeting as one of our articles for free cash to provide some more housing support. So we're talking about maybe continuing this program one more year and providing a step down subsidy for those that have done it this year. So if you got, just talking out loud, you got 100% of your subsidy this year, perhaps in the second year, we'll give you a 50%. And then the third year, you'd be on your own. So, so continue the program for new participants and perhaps half a subsidy for the initial participants. And then hopefully they'll enjoy the experience of having a year round instead of a short-term renter, and we'll continue them that way.
Yeah. The thing that's really great about this program is, as we all know we need housing at all affordability levels and all kinds. But the single biggest need in Eastham continues to be year-round rentals. And so this program specifically creates those opportunities. So,
Part of our contemplation of this too, again, this program isn't in the budget. It's out of article money that we previously had approved. And so if we're going to keep doing it, we'd need to have,
We need cash.
right. But what we're looking at is now that we have this experience, looking at the administration of the program is expensive. So part of what we need to look at as far as the capacity of the staffing in the community development department is there a way for us to avoid hiring that vendor and taking this in-house? Especially since it's been established. We have a communications person that can do our marketing now. So
Thanks, Steve.
So anyway, we're looking at maybe doing it in-house and reducing some of the administrative cost so that we're just paying out money for the subsidies.
Could you give us an update on the 580 Massasoit Road? Because at one point we weren't doing anything on the third floor, and then I've heard something from Jackie that now that perhaps the foundation situation is such that we could do something on the third floor.
yeah, so the goal is to make sure we can utilize that third floor, create a new rental unit. We are still in the process of getting the final structural and architectural plans in place. And again, there was question about the foundation and
Right.
whether it could support the load of the third floor. And so we're just fine tuning that, but everything points to that we should be able to do that. And so we are, as I said, we're just getting near the end of getting a bid package together, getting the final architectural and engineering plans together to go out to bid for that.
So are you anticipating, originally there was 760 being asked from the CPA, and that was cut in half to 380 because of the foundation situation. Are you planning on coming back to the CPA for more money if they're able to do something that we hadn't anticipated?
There's no plans right now
Okay.
at this point, but again, we still got to wait to see what the ultimate cost is going to be when we go out to bid.
We might
we
have
did-
some, go ahead.
No, I was gonna, we are waiting on a grant through the seasonal communities. So one of the benefits now that we start to see, signing on as a seasonal community, these kind of special pots of money set aside for just communities like us are starting to trickle down from the state. So there was basically a non-competitive grant that they just issued that we put in. I believe it's for about $90,000 to put towards 580 to help some of this, any gaps in the funding for that. I mean, that won't cover the whole thing, but
Right.
but as the seasonal communities money starts to come through and the state creates these programs, we're right, right in the first tranche of money for that. So this one was good. It was non-competitive. There will be other grants forthcoming as we understand it. So we're really looking to maximize that kind of grant funding for these projects as best we can.
Mary Kate's got a question.
Kate?
Hi. Just I think at this point, for the sake of transparency, Rich, you mentioned the volunteer event, and I think maybe we should talk about it a little bit since it was raised up. And It appears that maybe it's in Paul's um, budget. Do you want to
Yeah.
speak to it or?
Yeah, sure. Let me just share the screen again.
Great, thank you.
And so this actually was a select board item originally. Um, every fall, they like to do something for the folks at FE for all their efforts out in the Flower Islands. And so the idea was, well, we've got a lot of other volunteers too. So let's make it a whole thing for a volunteer appreciation event. And then uh, Kate also approached me as part of the search committee. Was it the search committee or just generally? I forget, Kate, but
It has come up at the search committee for the last few years, and I think we've been talking about it for a while.
right.
It's been something we've wanted to do for all the town volunteers.
So Kate had approached me and I, let her know that, this was a select board item as well. So I had been contemplating that anyway. And so but how this affects Paul and Paul's budget, a few years ago, I'm on the page on the screen, it's page 97, the very bottom. We have $5,000 for committee expenses because we're getting a lot of requests, and a lot of the requests were because Paul works with so many committees. They need money for handouts of things, especially the search committee when they're trying, little gifts for people or tablecloths, things like that when they do Windmill Weekend or other events. So we need someone placed for these little requests. And, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a few $100 here and there times several committees, and it'd add up. So in any event, we haven't spent the full 5,000 in any of the years, and so this seemed like a fine place to perhaps fund the volunteer breakfast out of, or event, I should say. I don't know there's going to be a breakfast for volunteer event as a search committee expense type of thing. So
And one thing I do want to point out is that the fact that this town has such dedicated and wonderful, passionate volunteers who are willing to sit on committees and, like Rich talked about, be on Effie, whatever, um, that saves the town a lot of money. We don't have to pay staff because people are taking a lot of that work on their shoulders that we would otherwise have to pay for. So for me and the search committee, it made a lot of sense to have this event to thank people, because the more people you thank, the more they tell their friends, and the more they tell their friends, the more volunteers you get. So, um, anyway, thanks, Rich.
The amount of time that our committees meet, I mean, there's work they do out in the field, volunteer work, but just the meetings alone, I know I've used it just to simply buy some food and some snacks because we have long meetings and it's just the amount of time that everyone puts in just to be able to,
What you should do for us.
yeah, sorry, to get pizza next time.
you're talking to one of the busiest committees. So.
Yeah. But it's just,
We don't want to spend.
kind of the least you can do is have a 3-hour meeting, at least have some nourishment. So, it was just, that was one of the things, we never had any place in the budget to like, can we run out and get some pizza? And
Yeah.
so now we have a mechanism for that, among other things. So.
Can
Yay.
you- Oh, sorry. Can you fill us in on what's happening with the beach plum? That's been in the works for a while now too.
Yes, so we had an architect complete a design for and really taking down the back portion where those efficiency units, the actual
Mhm.
motel units are. We shared that with the select board, I think it was last year. We had different renderings, and so they endorsed one of the designs to create 2 apartments and a smaller ADU, I believe, 3 units. So that's all set. We basically have to make some decisions about how we want to proceed with it. If it's something we want to do as a town project, or kind of offload the property and have someone else develop it with some deed restrictions, some provisions to make sure that it remains, an affordable housing unit. So, it's really what we've been talking about with the staff level, trying to balance all these other projects and what's feasible, what's within our capacity budget wise and also staff wise. So,
I think
Guess-
part of that is, I think the anticipation is to developing some sort of RFP in either situation. But we've been working on RFPs for Tea Time and Town Center Plaza first. And so once we kind of get something, then we'll probably move on to Beach Plum. Try to
Okay,
bring that,
That's my
try to bring that to a decision point.
question. Where are we with Tea Time and Town Center Plaza these days? Are we waiting for on the wastewater?
Well, now we know the wastewater is happening, that was a real big question mark. But
Right.
now we can start to, set our course on tea time. So we are drafting the RFP. We're in that process right now. We just actually had a staff meeting yesterday to go through a rough draft of it. So
We're 3 years out on the wastewater. How does that dovetail with what you're doing?
Well, there's probably a lot of review and input along the way, so it's not something we're just going to write an issue. We'll bring it in front of the select board, and I'm sure they'll want to get some input from folks. And develop the response process from developers is probably a relatively long-term process. So, and then lining up the financing and all that. So, I don't, 3 years sounds like it's a long way away, but it might take all that time to get somebody on board and get the financing and get a project designed and ready to go. So.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I have a question on this, sealer of weights and measures, and we ended up having to pay for that out of our reserve for 2 years. Around 6,000, was it 6,005? So you've got it in, what exactly is that? I mean, we had to pay it for out of our reserves, as I said, for the 2 past years.
Well, it's a bill from the state. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts took that program over, and about 2 years after the fact, they send us a bill. So I haven't gone up on the budget because I don't have any basis for what they're going to send us a bill for. It used to be a program that the town of Barnstable ran on behalf of all the towns on the Cape, and then they realized, why are we doing this for everybody? It's costing us money, and so they gave it up. But somebody's got to do it, and so the state took it over, but they bill us for it. But just
So what exactly is it, and how do they determine the amount?
sorry.
I'm not sure how they determine the amount. Probably based on apportionment of the amount of scales or gas stations that pumps that they got. But all the pumps, you go to a gas station, the most common ones, you go to a pump, you see this little certificate.
Okay.
Somebody came and certified that the gallons that you're pumping are the right gallons to be charged for. Or if you go to a supermarket and they have
A weight.
a weight.
Deli counter, weight, yeah.
Didn't you used to do that? Didn't you say?
Yeah,
That was like.
Chatham.
But how many of you do it now? Stations.
Well, I was going to say it's not a fun job. Chatham was one of the last towns that had their own local before they went on. And I used to assist the guy who did it. And you don't want to be pulling out the diesel. So it wasn't a fun. I did it because they gave me a little extra stipend, but it was not. So it's probably for the best that the state has taken.
But your name gets to be well known because everybody knows the
your name
inspector's name. I forget now, but there used to be a guy that did it for like 30 years, and you knew his name off the top of your head because he was on all the certificates of the gas pump.
So it has to do with what we have in town? Is there some amount of whatever is in there, and that's the price per gas station or per gas pump, or?
I think so.
Want to make sure you get a pound of cheese. You want to make sure you're getting a pound for a pound.
That's right. 9 cents a
Interesting.
gallon.
Yeah, it's one of those funny things that
I mean, it's been I think it's been about the same for the last 3 years, 6,005.
the wooden case out in the lobby right out here. Those are the weights.
Oh,
Those are an antique set of the weights and measures. The
So
state,
if we don't pay, then we'll have to go back to carrying around stones.
right?
Right. On the back to the housing projects for just a sec, so the RFP that goes out for tea time is gonna be pretty broad, right? Because we're gonna want to get, we don't have we decided, has the town decided what they want there? Specifically in terms of
No.
community centers and housing and.
Well, we're drafting the RFP. The draft of the RFP is whatever we end up doing is going to be a phased approach.
Yeah.
But within the overall concept of what, we spent years talking about, right, of what we wanted. And so, but phase one is a housing of some sort. And so, again, this is why this is going to take time. It's not just us drafting something saying, here it is, we're ready to issue it. It's going to go in front of the select board, and I'm sure it's going to get a lot of input and be a bit of a process before we fine tune and finalize it.
And Town Center Plaza will probably be similar.
Yes, and it's all,
There's a lot of possibilities.
I'll
there.
let Paul talk about it, but Paul's done a good job of, as we've been going through as a staff, making sure that we have all the references in the RFP to the overall master plan. So whatever happens there has to happen in context of all these other things that are supposed to happen, but obviously you can't do all those things all at once, so.
But where I'm headed though is, so those two are still kind of blue sky and, trying to figure out what the best way to go. But across the street, what do we call that?
Beach Plum.
Beach Plum. We sort of know what we want to do there, and you even have some plans that are fairly well along. Why not move that up in the order? And didn't we put a new septic in there
Yes.
to cover all the bedrooms that are there, so we don't have to wait for sewers?
We got an IA system there already.
Yeah. Wondering.
Time and, capacity, so, everyone's wants to get on to tea time, so that's what we're starting, so we can at least start a long process with the select board. And once we get to that point, then I'm assuming that we'll probably shift attention in short order to that. But I think the big decision point there were a couple things. Again, Paul, please chime in. But seasonal community grant funding might be impactful to what we do there, because that might help us make a decision of whether we do this ourselves and own the property, or turn the whole property over to somebody for, say, workforce housing, or just the efficiency units, but keep the main house. So there are some decision points to be made and discussed, I think.
And we're not sure how much of the seasonal community money is going to trickle down, so we're sort of waiting on that too, yeah.
Right. No, I echo everything that Rich said, and I think there's always so many moving parts with these housing
Absolutely.
developments and funding availability, obviously the wastewater, long term where the sewer is going to be coming down, that, so we don't want to, short-term decision to do something that may bite us later when we say, oh, if we had only waited and we realized the wastewater, so all these factors make it difficult to kind of navigate, and then you're trying to just parse out what.
I get that.
There are people living in the house, aren't there?
Yeah, the main house.
The
Yeah.
main house.
Yep, that's a year-round rental
Yeah, yeah.
owned by the town, managed by the town.
And just for those on the committee that may not know, we do own some rental properties, and those properties go into our rental revolving fund. Those rents, I should say, which is self-supporting. And previously, we contracted out property management to those, which is one of the things I helped to move forward and change when I got here a few years ago. Took a year or two to get out of it, but we find that we've learned a lot by self-managing those properties, and made, or not necessarily made, but saved a lot of money that we can put to maintain these properties, because some of them are in pretty rough shape. And so most of the maintenance and upgrades on those properties, we've been able to handle in-house because we added the facilities manager. And that was a key position. So, and that's why a lot of these things probably weren't maintained well, because every time you had to hire it out, it cost a lot of money. So we've saved a lot of money, and that rental revolving fund is doing pretty well and is at the moment sufficient to maintain the properties. And then, of course, Paul's housing coordinator, Rachel, spends a lot. That's a big part of her effort. And so one of the things we want to look at is, now that we know how these properties operate and we've got them back to a standard of repair, can we look at outsourcing some of the elements of that again, which frees up capacity for Rachel to do perhaps some other things.
How are the rents determined for those houses?
That's probably a question for Rachel.
Some of them are deed restricted.
based
Some
on-
are deed restricted.
Based on,
They are, but yeah, I mean, some of them, they all have some level of deed restriction for the affordability, so that's a controlling factor. I don't want to misspeak, because it is kind of like a
Mhm.
process on how you determine it. There's this,
Well, Rachel does actually, one of the benefits of Rachel, she knows how to do income certifications
Mhm.
for the different
Right.
levels of restriction there might be on a property. So
Yeah, but I can put something together just to answer that question and send it out. Yeah, I mean, it is,
Most of them were CPA funded, right? Or several of the ones that the town owns. So that comes with income restrictions.
yes, 100% or
80, yeah, to 100.
yeah, 80 to 100%. All of the housing trust properties were, and then most of them, not all of them, were CPA funded. I was just going to say, you know, one of the things that I'm really proud of, and it's not just me because it's all of our departments, but really over the last 10 years, we've done a lot of planning on all fronts, planning, zoning, wastewater. But when I look back and we have made steady progress, like the plans that we put together, we're following the action items, the recommendations. So all of these things have built up, and I know a lot of you we're at those meetings all the time back, the technical assistance panel we had and the North Eastham Village Center and all the zoning things. So when I look back, you can really see that we're building on all these plans moving forward. And it's like, again, the wastewater, getting the zoning and these strategic purchases of these properties that have come up. We may not have known it was going to be that property, but it came up and it fit with one of these plans, one of these recommendations. And so now we're getting slowly but surely to the point where, RFPs are going to be put out, development will happen. It's still going to take time over phases, but this has been a long, slow build. But I think it's a credit to, again, the town and the community, the support and, all the meetings and all of the plans and all the input that goes into it. It all fed into, we're following step by step. And we're using best practices and the Cape Cod Commission's model bylaws and all of the good things that, so we've really been a model Eastham has to a lot of other towns. We're getting these bylaws passed, we're getting the funding, we're getting these creative programs like Lease to Locals up and running. So, and that's not just me or my department, it's a whole team effort. So.
I think Ron had a question.
This was news to me, but then I'm the new kid on the block. I learned recently there's an Eastham Housing Authority, and just curious, does it, what is it? And does it have any footprints in our operating budget? Does it, I don't know, own or manage or not own or not manage the units you were just talking about? Or do we have any contingent liabilities for it? Or just kind of what is it?
So yes, we have an Eastham Housing Authority. Ours is a little bit different than other towns. So most towns' housing authority, it's really it's a state. It's really through the state, and they get funding and support through state. Ours, and this is a long kind of, I'm not sure, it's kind of lost in the mist of time how ours got started, predates me. So I just know that ours is not a fully, let's say, like credited state housing authority. So what the biggest thing to me is that we don't get really funding from the state. And so the housing authority, they have difficulty with property management. That's something, again, part of kind of consolidating our housing, bringing on our housing coordinator, consolidating our management, with the thought that if we need to help out the authority or so we've been kind of meeting with them, discussing with them, future planning to help them.
But they have,
Man.
was it 8?
Yeah, I believe it's 7 or 8 properties. Their property management is done through actually the Orleans Housing Authority. So we contract with the Orleans Housing Authority.
How Eastham Housing Authority does.
Sorry, Eastham
We
Housing
don't.
Authority.
So nothing it's not on our books at
Yeah,
all.
I mean, they are really a separate entity, but they don't really it's not like a typical.
So the potential future is that when the Orleans Housing Authority can't accommodate them any longer, maybe they'd turn to us.
Mm.
And so part of what we should be looking at, Paul, that's a good point, Ron, is when we do look at whether we want to outsource some of the elements of our property management, is that something that we should talk to the housing authority about? Of do they want to take part of that?
Right. And we've been trying to include their properties as we evaluate properties for maintenance needs and also future, is there any capacity to expand there? Can we add an ADU onto their properties, get some more units in there? So again, that's one of the benefits of having the housing coordinator. Now we have some capacity to be able to work with those folks.
Mary Rory's got a question.
Roy?
Yes, couple of questions. Is there a search underway for the community development coordinator? That's the one that I believe it was Phil Burt was in. Has that been filled?
It has. We changed the title of that to it's officially the community development planner, but it's the same position, and that is filled. Jackie O'Rourke in my department fills that role. It's really essentially an assistant town planner, but just has a different title, and she really is heading up the regulatory, working directly with planning board, zoning board, and also assisting me with strategic planning implementation among some other special projects.
And there were two positions allocated to health and environment. What was the strategy behind that?
Well, that's going back
Yeah.
3 years, I think. This is, or maybe even 4.
Yeah.
But that used to be the health and environment department was in the same office. And now
Right.
they are their own separate department and division. That was, I think, 4 years ago when that happened. And they're in the small building next door to town hall, between town hall and the fire station.
Right.
And so they had a admin assistant, 2 admin assistants, right?
Just one. It was, just one. Essentially, the conservation department was part of community development, but it just got restructured because it made more sense to bundle that with health as a health and environment.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm assuming that where you have Stacy down here for fiscal year 26 and you've got vacant after her, that's Kristen.
Correct. Yep.
And I just have a basic question of the village at Nauset Green. When that was originally built and put together, the folks that ended up with space in that operation went through the whole process of filling out paperwork and being accepted, et cetera, and that was quite a while ago now. And if I remember correctly, at the time, we had something like 200 people still on the waiting list. A huge number of people that were on the waiting list. If somebody met all of the requirements and moved into one of those studios or 1-bedrooms or what have you that they ended up in, and now they are earning way over what they would have needed in order to have met the requirements to be able to get a space. Does anything happen as far as that type of situation occurring?
Again, I wish I had brought Rachel with me, but for a detailed answer, but I know there are allowances to adjust rents as you, a rent doesn't stay the same. They're allowed to
Oh,
go.
so if I had moved in and I was earning blankety blank and I was paying a rent based on that income, and now I've gotten married and I have a child and so forth and so on, that my income is much larger than it was when I moved in individually.
Yeah, so I don't want to misspeak. I know there's capacity to adjust rents based on income.
So I wouldn't
but I
be-
think it's within, there's parameters and a process involved in that.
Oh, okay.
And actually, that's something that we do.
I'm sorry.
We have the same problem in Habitat. People get a house. That's it. They're one and done. They get a house, they get a mortgage, their income rises up, that doesn't change.
No, yeah, the house, but this isn't the same
We
thing.
had the same situation right over here in Brackett Road. That little housing off of Brackett Road there.
I'm not sure.
the town, did the town fund that? What's it called?
Oh, that was a,
Village?
that was a 40B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So some of the people that were in there also had higher income, but they still had the place.
Yeah, but those are all home ownership.
That's-
We're talking about rentals. So in the rentals,
About rentals.
Yeah.
so in the rentals, as Paul says, we have the ability to adjust the rates. It's
Mm.
income dependent. And so if you make more income, likely your rent going to go up.
Pay a higher.
And I don't, again, we don't want to misspeak, just like Paul. So Rachel's really the expert, but I don't know if it's every year, but there are
That's a-
income recertifications
Yeah.
We call it,
periodically.
Okay, that's what I want to know.
Yes.
Right.
But
Okay.
you're
And that's
not sure if it's annual or biannual.
That's
I
what
believe,
saw.
well, I believe it's annual because we actually, for the town owned, that's one of the things that Rachel does on the town owned rentals.
Check.
We have to go through that and we do make adjustments to the rent as it's warranted.
And it could go the other way if you're, say, a Section 8. The state could provide an increased subsidy if it goes down, as likewise, accordingly. So Rachel's on top of that and make sure we get what we need to get.
On the home ownership though, there's restrictions on the amount that someone could recoup on if they were to sell
When
it.
they sell it, that's how,
Caps on-
that's how they keep it affordable.
Make it affordable. Yeah. Are there any other questions from folks? Thank you very much for coming.
All right, thank you very much.
Appreciate your time.
Why not? Maybe you can answer this, Rich. The positions that you just spoke about that were filled, were they filled at the estimated level for FY
In
27?
these cases, I think they were, yeah.
We didn't save
but
the
what's-
money on them.
No,
Higher.
and but what's gonna make it worse, I guess, is, since then, with those rates,
you
we've
got
gone through the collective
above.
bargaining. So that's what I'm working on for the select board in a week or so, which I'll then bring to you is what's the tally, for all the positions,
Yeah.
what's the additional over above what you've seen in the book here?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul.
And Mary, before you start with the DPW, what I tried to say at the beginning of the meeting was,
Yeah, is John Ruffley coming?
yeah, he's online,
Oh,
but we've got Kim.
thank you.
But Paul B. Brown had asked for my list. So I'm fine tuning my list. So you got $760,800 of foregone costs, not in any of these operating budgets. So every time we go, I get ready for your departmental reviews each meeting. I'm updating for each department. So I'll do that for community services next time. But of that 760,800, 200 was for the capital plan funding that we forgone. So instead of going from 4, so it's not all just in the operating budget. So 200 is the capital plan foregone. 175 were basically enhancements. So those weren't necessarily inflation. So that was, that small amount for community events we talked about. The preschool program was about 125,000. An expansion of OpenGov, which was something we really wanted to do, I think was like 50,000, something like that. So that's 175. The 200 for the capital plan. And then items that need to be added but aren't, like providing for dispatch when the grant goes away in a couple of years, and providing for taser funding for when that lease expires, aren't in here. So that is a total of about 132.5.
But would they be in this budget anyway, if they're not for a couple of years?
Regardless of whether in the budget or not, we need the levy capacity to provide for them. Right. And then, you're right, I mean, I wouldn't put them in the budget if they're not needed, but I need the levy capacity in the next couple of years on that. And then that brings down true items, inflationary items of about $253,000 that I didn't include in this budget, but that we could have. So it's not 760 of things that we just aren't, that should have been in the budget that aren't. It's really the 253 and then some of these other items that we've decided not to add. So that's kind of the breakdown. And at some point I'll summarize this all up and get it to everybody.
That's a good list.
Are you putting together I'll call it a list of items that aren't in budgets that would be considered discretionary costs that might have been in there or?
Well, that's what this list is.
That's right. Are you putting, because there are other items besides this one?
Well, there's this, which is the expense side, and then there's about between salary and benefits, about $1 million of positions that people had asked to be added that aren't in the budget. And so those are really the two things.
Yeah.
So in theory, your free cash will be lower next year if you're not taking into account inflationary items this year.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it comes to the base. It begs the question that you usually hear, well, when you're looking at an override is, well, what have you tightened up? What have you cut? Well, we didn't necessarily cut anything on the premise that every line item in this budget is needed. You know, you might quibble about the amount of that amount, right? But everything in here is needed, and well, if it was needed this year, it was needed in past years, and sometimes those amounts go up and down. Like, repairs and maintenance. Sometimes we've got provisions for repairs and maintenance, and you'll see that in the DPW budget when you start looking at that. Some years you don't spend anything, spend half of the budget because you luck out or you're able to take care of it yourself. Other years you're over. Right. So it's a provision for something that may or may not happen. So you could quibble about should you reduce that down and take a risk? And sometimes the answer is yes, but then should you increase your reserve fund to accommodate now that you're taking on more risk? So, my larger point is every line item is needed to some extent. You don't see a lot of cuts just because we didn't spend the full budget the prior year. But what I'm trying to point out is, but you're also not seeing the increases. We're accommodating inflation within the existing budget. And so I equate, the 253,000 of pure inflationary things that aren't in this budget to my mind. And I know I'm the town, but to me, those are kind of like cuts.
Just a quick request for those of us who are on Zoom. We can't hear you, I don't think. There's a couple of people whose microphones may not be on. So when you're speaking, if you could just make sure you are near a microphone, it would be really helpful. Thank you.
I think everybody's microphone is on.
Just speak up, I guess. Kate, can you hear me okay? Or
Yeah, no, I could hear everybody. I don't want to name names, and actually it's fine. Peter, we can hear you. And
Really? Wow.
yeah, I can hear you. It's a small miracle. And Fred, I can hear you. So by the process of elimination, Steve.
It's coming down to me, huh?
Even Fred,
It's usually me.
the usual suspects.
Well, what you guys have to say is really valuable. And, those of us that are on Zooms, two of us are in Florida and one of us is babysitting. That's me. And I wish I could be with all of you. And unfortunately, I can't, but right now. So I want to hear what you have to say. It's important.
Can you
Thank
hear me, Kate?
I can.
Mary, before we get into the DPW, I'm going to talk about, I'm sorry I didn't, brief you before, but I did have a question, so I just want to address it up front and then before you get into the details of the budget, just so everybody understands the framework of the DPW. 2 years ago, I believe, Kim, who historically has been in the Water Enterprise Fund, funded out of the Water Enterprise Fund, got a promotion. And then more recently, we've made it more formal that Kim is our assistant DPW director. But we don't have the levy capacity, so she's still paid out of the water fund. Okay, so that's why you don't see her in the DPW budget. And when she gets to the water budget, you'll see that we also have another position, a municipal utilities director. It's listed, but there's no amount in the budget because, again, we don't have the capacity within the water enterprise to fund it yet. That position was going to be incorporated as part of the 1.5 million that we said we needed for operating for wastewater, which we don't have yet. And we do have a candidate that's willing to sign up with us. So hopefully that's something we can bring on board sooner rather than later. And the plan on that is we have some unrestricted money within you guys might recall a while back, I gave you a little financial update on the wastewater project. We had some unrestricted dollars available to us, and those dollars will cover a year or two, or maybe even three. So until we get the plan online, hopefully get the 1.5 million of funding we said we needed in place to help do that on a recurring basis. But that in and of itself is an overriding issue that the whole finance committee should, in a perfect, hindsight being 2020, we would have asked for the $1.5 million override at the same time. as we asked for the 170 million. We wouldn't have spent it, but we would at least have had the capacity so that when we needed to start spending it, we could go to town meeting, get an appropriation. So that's another override. It doesn't need to go to town meeting because we're not asking for money, but it needs to be on a ballot. And that could be this year, it could be next year, or it could be in 2 years. But before that plant's operational, we need that money on hand. So, and with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mary. Sorry.
Does John want to talk about it, or how do you want to proceed? Since John
Turn it over to Kim.
on Zoom, I didn't know.
So I'll start, and just so everybody knows, John, our DPW director, is on Zoom. And just like Rich said, my name is Kim St. Aubin, and I'm the assistant DPW director, but I also oversee water. So if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to go over just a little bit about what all the departments do. I'll do DPW natural resources, building maintenance, and then I'll separate and do water after that. So to start with Public Works, our DPW consists of John, our superintendent, myself, the assistant. We have our admin assistant, Sarah Narachi, and then our foreman, Brian Holmes, and 4 other staff. We maintain all public roads, sidewalks, beach sand replenishment. We manage cleaning catch basins and stormwater drainage. We care for the Field of Dreams, Windmill Green, and all town-owned buildings. We take care of all of the cemeteries now. We maintain landscaping along all the public roadways, respond to disasters, floods, snowstorms. We clear snow and ice from roads. We also plow all of our main roads and then 64 private roads that meet the criteria. We work with other departments to plan for development and infrastructure. We engage with residents. We plan for future needs, manage and maintain a fleet of vehicles also. Just a couple changes in the DPW budget. We do have $10,000 in there for cemetery costs. We have fully taken over the maintenance of Evergreen Cemetery. We are currently going to continue using the plumber and the landscaper that they have used. So that landscaping costs $12,000 a year, and that is mowing and fall and spring cleanup. And then plumbing is opening and closing the water that's there.
Excuse me, can I just ask, who paid for that before?
So it was the cemetery commission. They had funds that they brought in from fees. And now we've taken it over from them, basically because their fees weren't covering the costs anymore.
It was a nonprofit cemetery commission that was becoming too much for them to manage. All local residents, all getting to be pretty elderly, and couldn't stay on top of it. And so they wanted to turn it over. And, we're kind of the only game in town for a cemetery in Eastham. So what we've done is established a revolving fund. So a lot of these costs will be borne by the revolving fund and the fees that come in from lot sales. But there's an ad here for costs above and beyond that, because we will have to do some work and buy some supplies. And, I don't know what the overall plan is. It's still all relatively new, but there's some improvements that probably can be made to the cemetery and stones and things like that as well.
Yeah, other things like stone maintenance, fencing, all the fencing needs to be done, the gazebo in the middle. But we receive plot fees also, so it's $800 per plot in the cemetery also.
How many plots are there left?
There's tons of space.
Really?
Yeah.
And people are still,
Yeah. Yeah, we sold 11.
People are
plots.
dying to get in there.
I guess so.
Oh, you're waiting to use that.
It's not as prevalent as it was, but we have sold 11 since we've taken over.
For those of you who aren't familiar, it's the one across from Arnold's, basically.
Yeah.
That's some too.
Big one, yeah.
And then I wanted to mention uniforms. So Rich mentioned before, so contracts are just been signed. So there's a change in the uniforms for DPW and transfer station. We used to use a service for that, and now it's going to be an allotment. So each employee gets $500, and they have to fit a criteria. You have to have X amount of shirts, and they have to have the emblem on them, but they can choose what pants they like or what shirt they like. And so they each get $500. a year, and they get $400 for boots a year. So that's DPW and Natural Resources
Yes.
and Transfer Station.
So the language in that is will be changing
Right.
next year because we won't have the contract. But that should be sufficient, I think, amongst all the divisions for what we settled on for the new allowance. And to the extent it isn't, that would be something I would add into the cost of the contracts.
Natural Resources has 4 employees. We have our foreman, Nick, and he also serves as the shellfish constable. And then Emily is our new ACO and assistant to Nick in all of the shellfish duties. And then we also have Scott, our harbor master, and Mike, our natural resource officer. They maintain aids for safe navigation of all the waters and swimming areas, and they respond to any vessels in distress or marine emergencies. Propagation of shellfish seed, stocking oysters at Salt Pond, enforcing shellfish bylaws, permitting, education, and enforcement for town-owned and private aquaculture sites, landscaping and maintenance of conservation areas and town landings, maintenance and management of herring runs, all animal-related education, enforcement, emergency sheltering, care, and custody of stray and domestic animals, response to animal emergencies, barn inspections, aquaculture grant inspections, permitting vessel storage, moorings, dockage, and wait lists, aiding in the DPW, management and permitting commercial shellfishing and recreational shellfish. There are no changes in the natural resource budget this year, just the same with the uniforms. That's going to change for next year.
So we're still buying the shellfish from the local growers?
Mhm.
Kim, you mentioned it. Can you talk about that? So each of these divisions, they're relatively small in and of themselves. So you mentioned how each division helps out the other, so can you just reference that a little bit?
Yep. So for example, all of our natural resource staff plows also. It's funny because people come and they're looking for the harbor master, but he's out plowing. Road maintenance, Mike O'Connor has a CDL, so he can go out and help with roadside maintenance. And it's tag team. So also when we put the docks in every year, DPW comes and helps put the docks in every year down at Rock Harbor. So it's really just because we're all in one area, we're all working together. And transfer station also. If the transfer station is closed, you can always use someone for plowing from the transfer station too.
So each of these divisions aren't a silo. They're all relatively small. And I think one of the ways we've been able to not add more staff is because of the cooperation between each of them to help each other out. So
Can I ask, you were talking about a couple of questions. You said there are 64 private roads that have been accepted for plowing. How many other private roads are there that have not been accepted?
Oh, that's a good one, Mary. Yeah, I'd have to go back and
Okay,
look at
okay,
that one.
okay.
Yeah.
What's the policy? Could you
Yeah. Yep.
talk about that a little?
So it does have to be a paved road. I actually brought it with me, so I'm gonna read it to you. It does have to be a paved road, and then it has to be 20 feet wide. And then the clearance is 14 feet high. And ample room for emergency vehicles to be able to get in and turn around at the end. No defects, no potholes, ruts, and they can fix these things to become, so they would apply, we would go out and check the road and approve the road. And we might go back to them and say, hey, if you fix this pothole,
We'll accept
we'll
it.
accept you, yes. And then once accepted, it is 3 inches of snow that we would go to a private road, and we don't salt private roads.
Does DPW maintain
No,
the private roads?
No.
Like the 14-foot, for instance, cutting
no. So we would tell the homeowners,
the
you need to do this before the winter time.
it's really
Peter,
the ones.
I can speak to that. I live on a private road and it was being privately plowed. And when the money was allocated by the town, we applied, all the residents had to sign off, and there was tree work that needed to be done in order to have that threshold of the 14 feet so that the plow could come in and be safe. you think about the snow weighing down those branches. That's part of it. There's also to the side of the road, you can't have overgrowth either. So everything has to be cleared every fall. So they do a really good job, and I just want to commend you guys on the job that they've been doing, particularly this this winter when there hasn't been a lot of place to put the snow.
So the roads that have a homeowners association, I think that works a little bit better because you have a responsible party that can kind of be on these things. And then there's some, less formal associations or just more informal agreements between some residents that can get some things done. But then you've got the people that, they like the narrow roads and they like the overgrowth. And, and those are people that complain. But, we got a pretty clear policy, and for 360 days of the year, you like that you're on a secluded, compact dirt road with trees all around you. It just,
Yep.
So, it's hard to accommodate people and, the rules, but you like it the other way.
I'll just take this moment too to thank our staff for this winter because I can't even
Are you
say.
expecting to be over budget?
In snow and ice. We're about,
I'm assuming that I'm going to see something in the reserve fund in June for that.
yeah, we're about 35,000 over in budget right now.
35,000 right now, and we're due another storm on.
No, we're not, Mary. It's
Oh,
gonna
oh.
be rain.
So Mary, I have a question.
Great.
To see you again.
Well, I'll also
I-
take this. Did you
I
get
do-
the, Mira had sent out a letter. Did you see the letter from the fire department?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll talk about it in the town manager's report, but the fire department has a potential reserve fund request. We got a snow and ice deficit, a potential elementary school deficit. That one we might need something special on that one, but on these smaller things like 35,000 for snow and ice and 20,000 for apparatus repair, we can accommodate those things generally. I'm just sending it to you for your awareness that potentially we'd have a reserve fund vote. And if you didn't want to have one, you could tell me so that I don't count on it for June. But we can accommodate those things because maybe we'll be over budget. We're over budget 35,000 to snow and ice, and we'll probably be over budget 20,000 for fire department repair and maintenance. But we'll have savings somewhere else because of our conservative nature of our budget, and we can get a year-end vote from the select board and the finance committee just to cover it. And we don't have to hit the reserve fund, or we could just hit the reserve fund. It's kind of the same at the end of the day. But what you won't see and haven't seen in 6 years that I've been doing town meeting warrants for the town, unlike all the towns around us, you don't see payment, article on the warrant for payment of prior year bills or for supplementing budgets from prior years, because we can take care of it because we got the flexibility. So that's one of the consequences of, you get me fired up because I live these things all the time, but towns really cut themselves to the bone on their budgets. And then the next year you see them coming back for supplemental budgets. It's like, why don't you just do it right the first time? It's just kind of maddening.
Facilities maintenance is made up of our facilities manager and 3 custodians. They're responsible for overseeing maintenance, repair, and cleaning of all public buildings such as town hall, library, recreation, COA, DPW, PD. They're also responsible for the maintenance of the rental properties owned by the town. Professional and technical services handled under facilities maintenance are sprinkler testing, fire alarm testing, fire extinguisher inspections, pest control, HVAC maintenance and repair, generator maintenance contract, elevator inspections, overhead door maintenance, wastewater treatment system inspection, pumping and maintenance, electrician services, plumbing services, locksmith, and door repairs. The only change in the building maintenance budget was Premier Water Systems is a company that we use to maintain the water bubblers in the town buildings, and that wasn't in the budget before. Okay, transfer station, the budget buster.
Yes.
It's made up of 4 employees, 1 foreman, 1 machine operator, 2 laborers, one of which is in the gate shed. I'll just mention that we are short 1 machine operator in the transfer station right now. We take waste collection from households and private garbage contractors. Waste is consolidated in containers. We manage recycling, sorting, haul recyclables to recycling facilities. We safely store waste materials until they're taken to their destination. We organize and manage the transfer of waste and recyclables, comply with regulations related to waste handling, ensure that the transfer station runs safely for its citizens and its workers, keeping accurate records and logs of waste and recyclables. And then I just wanted to mention that we have been using Black Earth to pick up our food compost for the last 2 years. We, through our recycling dividends grant that we get every year, we use that money to pay Black Earth to pick up the food compost. And that's been increasing every year, the amount of food compost that we're taking in. So everybody try to food compost.
So, so I just, yeah,
Mhm.
I was on the recycling committee. It
Mhm.
took us years to try to get that thing through. And, but whoever's in charge of that is not policing it correctly because it says no bags.
Yeah,
I dumped some recyclable garbage in there yesterday and there were regular
yeah,
trash bags in there.
yeah.
And if we're gonna, and I don't know what the vendor is saying when he opens that thing up and
It
sees
finds that.
They
Right,
won't
it says
take it.
clearly right in the front, says no
Mhm.
bags. And I went to Stephen and asked him
Mhm.
what that meant, because
Mhm.
it's not clear. It's not clear that it's only recyclable bags or no bags at all.
Yeah.
You just dump the trash in there.
Yeah,
So something needs to be done to
Yeah.
clarify that. And I don't know what the vendor is thinking. Well, if he saw what I saw when they opened that bin, he's like, I'm not taking that stuff.
they don't take it. So he sends me a picture.
End up.
Well, they hold it, then we go and we take the bags out and then they come pick it up the next week.
Oh,
So yeah, we need to do some more education on the bags.
yes.
Yeah,
Well, get the recycling committee to do it.
yeah. Mhm. So increases in costs for FY 27 is the solid waste contract, recycling costs, hazardous waste day, construction and demo, mattresses, and solid waste transport. So last year we talked about Reworld or CMAS is our contract, our solid waste contract. So for calendar year 2026, it's $113.50. For calendar year 2027, it will go up to $120 per ton.
Too bad.
Recycling transport, I just wanted to mention,
How long is the contract we have right now?
so it goes to 2029.
So what is it? What are the fees for?
So
Should be at the end.
27?
Should be at the end, Fred, I think. Yeah, there's a note at the end.
No, number one.
yeah, so $113.50 per ton for 2026, $120 for 2027, $120.90 for 2028, and $120.90. Oh,
29.
it stays the same, yep, for 2029.
So what's the town's attitude for? Is it time to do the paper through?
To do what? I'm sorry.
Pay as you throw.
Pay for through.
Paper through.
I think we should start thinking about it again, yes. Yeah.
I mean, I hate it and I did all the analysis on it, but people are just not being responsible about solid waste disposal.
Yeah.
And the CMAS contract is just gonna keep going up. And while I'm, on the soapbox here,
Mhm.
The C&D thing, we get killed over there.
Kill, yeah.
There's, for years I've advocated that we put some kind of an electronic fence there. And with a little gate, so if you get a bag of C&D you want to get rid of, you can walk around the gate, and throw it in. But if you get a truck that you're trying to dump in there for free, that shouldn't be. And I see too much of that. I see them go right by the gate, they go right over, they dump right in the, it's just, I don't know what, Stephen has all the numbers and if we, you asked him to tell you what goes over the scale versus what goes out on the truck, you'll see a big number difference.
Mhm. Yeah,
Is
Yeah, I do.
there-
I think
Is
we
there a fine for people that get caught doing that?
No,
no,
well, why should the transfer station people be policing?
No,
that-
I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
Fred. What I'm saying is that if people are, maybe there needs to be some kind of, I don't think it's them, but somebody needs to maybe be, I guess, you're right. Someone would need to police it. It's just, that's terrible that people are doing that.
Yeah.
I think pay as you throw changes people's mindsets also. So even if you're not a recycler, pay as you throw, if you're worried about money, you're going to separate and less is going to go into the waste stream.
Can
So-
you explain that a little bit for people who might be watching this,
Mhm.
in case they don't know what pay as you throw is?
So pay as you throw, so towns, I know Brewster is doing it right now. So you would buy bags, and the cost for your transfer station, I'm not going to be able to speak to this completely, but the cost of your transfer station sticker is much low. So I think Brewster's is like $85. And then you pay a fee per bag, which is maybe $1 something at the grocery store. So then you're basically paying for bags. So that causes people to then recycle because they're going to separate their plastic because they don't want to pay more for the bags.
That makes sense, Kate?
Thank you. That's great.
We've discussed doing that here, and I know Brewster does it. Are there other towns?
Yeah,
I know have discussed it too, and
yeah,
I'm sure.
Hopefully.
Wellfleet, they pay per bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say,
Go to Stop and Shop, you'll see them.
Oh, yeah,
There's
yeah,
a section there.
they're tannish color.
I'll have
Yeah.
to look. I've
Well,
never
it's
seen that.
purple, there's yellow. and-
Yellow, tan, yeah, I've seen them.
I want to say it was about 8 or 9 years ago that we
Yeah.
thought about doing it before.
No, I did all the work.
Yeah.
But the problem was, and now we get a similar problem, we were trying to get the water through and we didn't want, people throw, for some people, it's just, it's onerous. It's Big Brother trying to get after you. Now we got the sewer, but we already kind of got the money, so maybe we should go for it.
Mhm. Yeah. Fred, you're going to help me, right?
I'll do the analysis again.
So that's one
Fill
thing.
up all the spreadsheets.
One thing I want to point out, though, and Kim's done a good job at keeping the records and getting us the numbers. But we went with $3,800 ton, 3,800 tons, right? So when we do a budget, we take the rates and our expected tonnage for each of these things. So when you have a good year, so to speak, and didn't spend all that budget, it's likely because you only actually delivered, 3,500 tons, right? But the opposite, in a busy, I think during the COVID period, tonnage jacked all the way up and we had some deficits, as I recall. Now, we also had the revenue on the C and D, but we had to get, transfers because we were over budget, but based on tonnage. So that's one of the things we try to keep an eye on is that we budgeted for 3,800 tons. So we would, like to keep track of that and to know whether we're on target, under or over target on that.
You're actually paying more per ton on the recyclables, though.
So that's the next thing I wanted to mention is recyclables was something that we received money for at one point. And now we're paying for basically everything.
We don't receive any money.
No, just metal is the only thing. Cardboard just kind of switched over. So there are a couple places that will take cardboard that they won't give us any money, that it'll be free. But it's costing in other places and it's just a matter of time before it costs everywhere.
But it's still a lot cheaper than
Yeah,
solid
Yes.
waste.
Yeah, exactly.
30 a ton for cardboard, right? Or,
Well, that's not disposal, that's transport.
transport, right?
So now, did you say the
Oh.
composting is going up?
Yep. Yeah, it's increased a small amount, but it's
Reasonable.
increasing. Yeah.
And I think you started talking about the grant. Is that going to continue?
Yes. So that recycling dividends grant we get every year, and we get that for, doing things like taking fluorescent light bulbs and separating plastics, and you fill out your survey, you hand it in, and because you're responsible, then you get, points, and then you get money, and then you can use that money towards other recycling things.
So that's what we're.
Yeah.
I just saw on the climate action plan, they do want to increase the composting.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe assistance from them and the recycling committee
Yeah.
can maybe educate people better to get that to keep increasing that compost to maybe lower.
Yeah. One of the ideas was trying to put like a food compost site somewhere. So then it's totally free. Because if you're coming into the transfer station, let's say you live in a development, you know, and your trash is taken care of, then you've got to come to the transfer station, pay $10 to food compost. They'd like to make it free for people. So if there was a site, but then you're dealing with, you've got food compost somewhere, which can be a health thing. So.
Yeah.
But those bins fill up pretty quick. I mean, the short time I've been using it, they've been filling up pretty quick.
Yeah.
A lot of people are using it.
Mhm.
But we're not doing anything with commercial waste at this point. I mean, the schools and that type.
The schools are actually use Black Earth also. So Black Earth goes to the
Oh,
school.
but by themselves, they're not bringing any of
Right
it,
now.
right?
Yeah.
And how about places like the restaurants and stuff like that?
No, they're not. Yeah.
Is that the guy out of Sandwich? The Black Earth guy? The guy
No.
with the big farm?
Sandwich is that Wyatt Farms
So Black Earth isn't.
is off Cape. Yeah. So they're coming all the way. Now they're
No, I
coming.
know. We had a big debate about whether Dennis, we were gonna take it to Dennis.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a liftgate truck, and so it just kind of fell apart.
Mhm.
But now they're coming all the way here?
Yep.
Because they're picking up in Wellfleet too. I
Yeah.
know.
I think they're going to Provincetown now too. Yeah.
Nice.
Could you just explain the recycling a little bit more to me? Why does it cost so much less to transport cardboard than the other stuff? Is it because the cardboard place is closer? $30 a ton versus
What
130.
page are you on?
Page 148.
148?
I couldn't say what the exact reason is, why, but it's even like, I speak to cardboard in particular, like we were getting paid for cardboard right up until the fall. And then all of a sudden, so for example, and I shouldn't be saying, but like Daniels, for example, they had that fire. And then right after that, we saw the cardboard cost.
Oh.
Then they were charging. Yeah.
And the disposal part of the recycling stuff is with the waste tipping fee? Is that where the disposal cost is? You said this is just the transport costs.
So it's,
Where's the disposal cost? Is it the same?
no,
as-
that's in there also in the recycling transport.
Oh, it's in there.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
recycling and transport.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's $130 for hauling and
Yeah.
tipping.
Mhm.
Okay.
But yeah, so maybe the cardboard isn't that much less. It's just the fact that in the past we've been
Yeah.
getting some
Yeah.
money back. Yeah. So maybe this should be higher for next year.
Could be. Yeah.
Is there anything that's
Yes.
going to be lower?
Everybody accuses me of increasing the budget.
People try to
Blame
use
it on me.
What about the commercial trash, like when, like a Fraser, I'll name
Mhm.
one. They get weighed when they come in?
Yeah.
And weighed when they come out?
Yeah. And they pay
We, do
per
we,
ton.
do we break even on that? Do we make money? Does that cost us money?
I mean, overall, yes, we make money.
We make money
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Those people
It's a good-
across the scale.
actually a good question. On a direct basis, I'd say we make money, right? But it's one of the things that we were just talking about because we were having a fee hearing and we went up slightly on some fees. But next time we go for a fee hearing, we want to have a little bit of a better template in place where we're actually looking at not only the direct costs of each of these components of the operation, but allocation of costs too, right? So we're spending energy. We've got supervision of these programs,
People. Yeah.
and so when you put in all those direct costs, are we really making money? We're not supposed to make money as a fee anyway, but there's a little bit of slippage there. But I suspect that we probably aren't making money when you factor in all the costs of doing business. Like we don't allocate general insurance, it's just a part of our unallocated expenses, but part of that is because we have a transfer station and a C&D facility, right? So,
Right.
so we want to do a little bit of a better job of documenting the true costs of each of these programs.
Can I make a statement about the transfer station? Because I have a star and I wanted to make sure I say, it's never looked cleaner. I think the transfer station looks so clean. It's always,
Patty.
they really they do a good job keeping it clean, even on a windy day. It always looks great.
Mhm.
I wanted to say that.
Thank you.
And are we contracting out the hauling to CMAS now?
Yes, so the solid,
We don't drive our own trucks there?
we don't drive our own trucks for solid waste. We
Oh.
drive the recycling. Solid waste, we use a contractor.
But that, it's our container, but.
Correct, yeah.
Another contractor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that contract is going up. Right now, it's $600 per load. It's going to go up to $700 per load in FY '27.
So every trip's gonna cost us $600?
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
And, just to get you ready for the future, there's a lot of talk about the facility in, is it Rhode Island now, closing down. And so people not sure where then
The
replacement for-
See one or?
I forget what the name of it is.
The
It
one
seems
in
like they,
Cranston.
yeah, Cranston. It changes. Names change a lot. So if it's a facility in Cranston, Rhode Island isn't available, and Massachusetts, I don't think allows them. Where are you going to go? So
Right.
the people are thinking it might be out in New York, and all of a sudden your transport costs go up even further because you're going twice the distance, or no, it's probably even further than twice. But
Is that for the solid waste or for C and D?
Solid
solid
waste.
waste.
So what's happened with CMAS? Is it still?
I think, I mean, if they're a
Good for-
corporation, so I guess they could shut their door. I mean, if things became too difficult for them or if things didn't work, they could just close their doors, I guess. So what would we do then? So there's,
But now, CMAS is in Massachusetts?
no, CMAS is in Rhode Island.
That's the one in Cranston?
Yeah, Reworld.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now called Reworld.
Yeah.
Hasn't been CMAS for a
Yeah.
while.
oh, okay.
And they used to be in
And that's
Wareham,
waste to energy.
Yeah.
But they're in.
Rochester. I think
Right.
it used to be in Rochester years and years ago, but
Rochester, Mass.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
I don't think so. No.
But CMAS is in Rochester.
Yeah.
And what's happening is there a lot of towns, a lot of municipalities are disposing their trash there. And, if they have a breakdown, any sort of shutdown, everything gets put on a rail car. So there's just it's kind of like a supply and demand issue that the whole Cape is looking at in the South Shore, because if one thing happens, a battery fire, anything, any reason to shut down that plant, there's nowhere in Massachusetts to bring our trash. So it's just something that everybody's looking at for the future, that, this could be something that happens.
But what about the daily trash train, John? The one that
Fred,
goes,
speaking to the mic.
the daily trash train, John? The one that goes from, I think, Yarmouth?
Yeah, so the daily train, again, that's, if something happens, a train derails down south, because all that trash goes to Ohio, Chicago, so that's kind of the issue that everybody's looking at, is there's very limited resources right now to get rid of trash. There's very few vendors anymore that are doing it because these landfills are closing, and it's just a very volatile thing right now. With you only have Reworld, CMAS, the old CMAS, and you only have the rail car that weather that could weather could affect where the how fast the trash gets pulled out of here, or again, a train derail, any issues, and it's just very volatile, and that's what the Cape and the South Shore, we're all looking at. This could potentially be an issue.
But we still making any money on mattresses?
We're not making any, no. No.
For a
We-
while.
No,
We take,
no, yeah, nobody's dumping them on the side of the road, so we're keeping them off the streets.
Oh,
We take our mattresses now to a new facility called Hand Up. That's really terrific. If anybody has time, take a look at them because they do a great job at recycling the mattresses. So we haul the mattresses there now.
Will we
Well-
get some cash from them?
No,
Not
no,
anymore?
no.
Silvio, when he first started that, he thought, I think it was a moneymaker for a while.
We were a depot. So I think it was we got a grant for it too.
Oh, is that what it was?
So we were a hub that everybody brought their mattresses to, and then the hauler came and picked them up.
Right.
That turned into that hauler, they could only come on the days we were closed. So then you're paying for
Somebody to go there.
overtime, and it just wasn't working. Would you like me to go right into water? Are we ready for water?
I just have,
Okay.
are we increasing the sticker fees? I know there was a discussion the other night at the select board as far as the sticker fees for the transfer station.
Yes,
Is
so
that going to be discussed further, or has that been decided on?
that was voted on the other night. Yeah, 135 to
Yeah,
140.
and no third, there's something about a third, some people have 3 cars or,
The third sticker, so if you get 3 stickers for your household, just the third sticker costs the same amount as the first one.
And do you have, I didn't, I wrote it down, I was here at the meeting, but I don't have it here. What is the increase? Do you remember? Is it a large increase?
It's $5, so 135 to 140.
Oh, it's not very much.
Yeah.
And the idea here was like you said, we wanted to do a more comprehensive analysis of the cost of offering this. And if we, now if we're talking pay for throw, then that has to be part of the contemplation as well. But we know that we needed we want to have probably more frequent, small to modest increases than waiting 10 years and having a big
And then
increase.
a large one after a number of years
Right.
have gone by. Yeah. Okay.
One last question for me anyway, under professional and technical, what's alpha scale and paradigm? They're new for 27?
So they're not new. I don't know if they weren't in there
Oh, okay,
before.
maybe they-
Yeah.
I think we broke them out finally.
Yeah. Is our scale. So that's the scale maintenance. And then Paradigm is the software at the transfer station.
Yeah, maybe it was on a different line before, so.
I'm trying to find, I think it might have been, there might have been in the highways division asset management software or something like that.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for Kim on the, before we get on to the water enterprise? Okay, so let's proceed on to the water enterprise.
The Eastham Water Department is responsible for management, distribution, and treatment of our water resource. The Water Department coordinates between our operator, Whitewater, still our consulting engineer, Apex, and our billing company, Penachuk. We're responsible for scheduling turn-offs, turn-ons, handling final water reads, billing questions, water quality issues, leak investigation and abatements. We are responsible for helping the public get connected to town water, hiring contractors and plumbers, issuing permits for connection, and then also assisting the contractors and plumbers apply for their permits. The Water Department manages the Water Betterment Loan Program, which helps citizens spread the costs of their hookups up over time. Whitewater currently maintains and operates still 2 well houses and 1 tower, soon to be 3 well houses and 2 water towers, and the water infrastructure. Whitewater handles all DEP required testing and regulations and monitors water quality and would respond to emergencies such as leaks or contamination. The Whitewater contract began in July 1st, 2024. It's a 3-year contract with the option of 2 one-year extensions. So for FY 2027, the Whitewater contract will increase to $732,708 plus the lump sum costs. And those lump sum costs include chemicals, system repairs, and materials. The monthly contract fee with Whitewater covers gate valve exercise, compliance and sampling, water complaints, turn-offs, hydrant inspection and maintenance, flushing, dig safe markouts, meter repairs, backflow testing, cross-connection surveys, hydrant repair. They submit the CCR, the Consumer Confidence Report, and they prepare and submit the annual statistical report. They submit monthly operating reports. They submit monthly DEP chemical usage. They monitor the Water Management Act. They inspect all the water service installs. They purchase and facilitate chemical delivery. They do any kind of small repairs that are needed at the pump and well house. They handle the SCADA system and SCADA alarms. They facilitate main and service line repairs and respond to customer emergencies. Penachuk is responsible for our billing and collection. They have a call center and they maintain our customer database. They do accounts receivable and mail all the bills and bill inserts. Our Penachuk contract extended through September 1st, 2025, with the option of 2 one-year extensions. I'll kind of go into the weeds here. In FY 2027, the Penachuk contract is going to, it's kind of confusing, this contract. It's going to be $12,577 times 4 quarters. Then another fee of $1,159 times 4 quarters, because we have over 2,500 bills. And then on top of that, it's $1.33 per piece. And I estimated that we increase about 30 water connections a quarter. So that puts us at 10,732 pieces, which I averaged as $14,274. This year we installed.
The tower they put up over there on Southeast Dam Street, or do we own? Who owns that?
We own it.
Okay.
We installed fiber optic cable to District H this past year. That has a yearly fee of $5,000 per year. And then, like Fred just mentioned, we have installed SIM cards in 3 different locations in town to read the new ultrasonic meters, and that cost us $756 per year. I also wanted to point out the generator maintenance is, you'll see in the contract or in the budget, that's 4 spots for 2 times a year. And then I also wanted to mention that we, which I don't think was in the budget before, we're enrolled in the DigSafe program. So that fee is based on how many calls we get to mark out water lines. It averages about $400 per quarter. It's $1 per call. And just challenges in the water operating budget is just creating capital, which Rich has mentioned many a time, for future water infrastructure maintenance. And then we also need to change out about 2,000 meters to new ultrasonic meters that we bought last year.
So a lot of this, just to circle back to what I said at the beginning, one of my objectives would be, as you see in here, Kim's salary is in here, and it really ought to be in the DPW, but we don't have an extra 100,000+ in levy capacity to do that. So one thing, we gonna have to contemplate. I don't know if we'll be able to do it this year. I have to call the Department of Revenue, see if they'll let me do it. But there's a thought of consolidating our enterprise funds, the water enterprise fund. We have a water enterprise fund. We also have authorization for a wastewater enterprise fund. And I think what I'd like to do is consolidate them into a water resources enterprise fund, which I've recommended in other towns, and other towns have done it, and it's been effective. And that puts everything kind of in one spot. And then in order to afford moving the shift of a salary from the enterprise fund to the general fund, come up with a plan of perhaps allocating some indirect costs to that enterprise fund. And so shifting, you're adding some costs to the general fund, but you're taking some costs away and putting them on the enterprise fund. But the problem, not really the problem in doing that, is right now, I have to get with Kim before we finalize the article for this. And you see in total that the water enterprise fund budget is $1,035,000. I want to fine tune with you, Kim, our expectation on revenue based on just a 2% fee increase. I suspect that we're probably a couple $100,000 short of water revenues funding this budget, which is okay for a while because we have some retained earnings that can supplement this. But getting the connections and getting some high flow users connected and using the system
Be helpful.
would be very helpful. It's just not right that 50% of the town or 52%, whatever it is connected, and substantial amount aren't. And so those users are carrying the operation.
Hopefully with wastewater too, we'll get all of those connections. So if we mandate that they have to connect to water, if they connect to wastewater.
How many people are eligible to be hooked up that aren't?
It's about 50%.
So we're still only at 50%.
Mhm.
Didn't you send out a mailing
Mhm.
and did
Yeah.
you get a good response from that?
I did at first, yeah. I got, a lot of phone calls that said, we're going to do this. We swear. We're thinking about it. We're going to do it at some point, but it got the conversation started, I think. Yeah, I did get a good response. I think now, anybody that wanted water before got water. These are the holdouts. These are the people that their well is still okay and
Or I just put in a new well right
just
before
put
the
in a new
water.
well and
Yeah.
yeah.
Kim, we did the I forget what we called it, like a system development fee a year out. We
Mhm.
did do that, right, as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the proposed fees that the select board has to convene as a board of water commissioners to authorize is a connection fee. So right now, well, there's a connection fee, but it's relatively nominal, but really amping it up, but giving it a year's notice.
People rush
So
to put it
people will
in.
get it in.
So,
before the-
you have 1 year. After that, it's going to cost, in that letter too, I wrote something like, fees are going to go up. You're going to notice fees go up. So now's your time.
But the justification for it is, the reason we need the money is not just for the operating, but we also need to build for capital replacement. The water tank's going to need to be painted in some few years. So it's not, if we're relying on the water fund to pay for the capital maintenance of the systems, it's not fair that the people that aren't participating in the water fund aren't participating in that cost. And so, if you aren't participating in the cost for the next 5 years, when you finally do connect, you're going to have to pay more to connect because you got a free ride for some amount of time.
High-end users, is there a way to force the high-end users to participate legally or not?
That's something we've been looking into. There's a couple, we have a lot of commercial businesses that are still not hooked up.
Hmm.
So I've been working with the health department to try to figure out something to try to mandate it.
And we don't have anything that's exceeding, I don't think, limits. So I don't want to misspeak or alarm anybody, but the emergence of PFAS and PFAS standards might be the mechanism, especially on a commercial entity to get connections. And that would come through the Board of Health regulations.
But, these large enterprises will have to connect to the sewer by law. But it's a gray area whether they have to put water in at the same time.
Mhm.
Well, I think,
If they would, but
depending on how you get your sewer, your wastewater into the system, like for example, you have a grinder pump, as I understand it, there's a way to have a meter on a grinder pump. And so that would preclude you from having to do water, I guess, right?
Right.
So.
And the water fees were just recently upped.
Well, not technically they weren't,
Oh,
because the select board has to convene as a board of water commissioners to approve them, but they were proposed, and it's a 2% increase.
Oh, okay. So that should be, what's the timing on that, do you think?
If we do that in the next couple of weeks, we could do that for FY27.
FY 27, okay. And I think you have the wrong years on it. On page 205. You've got the fiscal year 25 on the left and fiscal year 26 on the right, and I think it should be 26 on the left and 27 on the right.
You're correct, yeah. And then I'll let Kim or John, if he wants to participate, talk about it, but as I mentioned, we do have a candidate for our utilities director. And so Kim listed all the things that our water operations contractor does for us. And, John and Kim have talked to me in the past about, probably some of those things we could do in-house, which will save us money on the contract. So this new position might be able to help, because Kim can't do it all. So this new position might help to offload some of those things to hopefully, I'm sure the ops contract won't go down, but maybe it won't go up as much as it might otherwise.
Or even also just get us more in the future of maybe completely taking it in-house also.
To save on any OPM costs coming up in the future?
Sorry.
would it save it any OPM costs? to come
For
along?
wastewater?
Yeah.
Yeah, likely because, and Kim knows more of the details than I, because she was here for the water contract, the water project. But basically, I think we pretty much outsourced
Mhm.
everything to the OPM to handle.
Mhm.
And so they're happy to do it, but we're paying a consulting rate to do that.
Mhm.
So whatever we can take off our OPM, whether it's resident complaints and issues and things like that, there's something they don't have to do and bill us for, right?
Well, the other thing too is you got that money in the $170 million. You can't extract any of that for this position on a 3-year basis.
We could, as long as it's substantially related to doing this project,
Right.
which obviously it largely would be once it gets going, right?
Plus you could be saving money.
But other than the 170, again, we had some grant funding in prior years that we were able to steward and save. So it's a part of our unrestricted money that we have in our wastewater project. So that's how we're going to be able to move forward with this position before we get the 1.5 million for wastewater.
Do you anticipate continuing to have an arrangement with Whitewater even after the current contract is finished?
I think that's kind of what we were talking about. If we bring this person in-house
Mhm.
and we start to learn everything that they do, then that would be the future. Maybe we could bring that in-house and then not use Whitewater.
Not have the contract?
Right.
I would personally, I think that's definitely something we'll be looking into, but personally, just my experience, other towns would probably have some sort of contract
Of some
Just-
sort?
just because you need some coverage for licenses, what DEP requires. But hopefully a much pared down,
Might be cheaper.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, Whitewater also does wastewater, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
And so
but that's a
the
different
Whitewater,
contract, right?
the different
Yeah.
contract and the water contract expires after next year, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have an opportunity to evaluate it over the next year and then at the same time contemplate what we might need to do for
20
wastewater.
Yeah, for
And
28.
And it's all an RFP process, so we can't just make a decision who we want. But, hopefully, for a neighboring town or towns, have an operator that we can work with. Maybe there's some economy of scales of hiring and contracting on a joint basis. But those are all things this is why I want this person in place to work with Kim, who's been here through the whole water project, so we can start exploring these things.
Any other questions for Kim on the Water Enterprise Fund?
I
Roy?
have a question.
Yeah, Roy,
Page 207,
207?
right. Kind of in the middle there, under professional and technical. Implementation of in-house building. Are we doing that now?
We're not, no, we use Penachuk to do our billing. So it's just a thought of the future. If we had more staff, we could probably take the billing in-house.
So that was a
We've talked-
holdover from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we've talked about
And
that.
that's why it's still there and we're still thinking about it. The challenge really isn't doing the billing itself. It's the segregation of duties associated with the collecting of it. So you wouldn't really want, one person over at the water department setting up the bills, being able to adjust bills and also collect the money at the same time. And so in most places, most towns, when you have a water department doing the billing, you have the collector's office doing the collecting.
Right.
And so I really have to evaluate whether our collector's office, and I think the answer off the top of my head is probably no, doesn't have the capacity to collect how many thousands of quarterly bills with the 2 people that they got on staff, right? And so now it's not just a matter of getting the software to do the billing, it's, we're adding a staff person. So
Is that proprietary software they're using or is it in the public domain?
The Penachuk's software, it's actually Munis that the software that they use, yep.
Want to see a nice dog?
So it dovetails right into our billing system. Nice.
You want to see a nice dog?
Any other questions from the Zoomers or here at the table? Thank you very much, Kim.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
coming
having
this
me.
evening.
Thank you.
thanks, John. Thanks, Kim. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You can stay if you want.
I'm sure it's still.
No, I'm just kidding. No, nobody ever wants to stay. Okay, I'm sorry.
Except those who have to.
Have to, right, have to, yeah. Okay, on to the agenda. Under number 5, new business. And the only thing, well, I have a couple things. The other night at the select board meeting, the select board agreed to put on the warrant, the fertilizer issue. Laura Kelly presented her recommendation and it passed with the select board 4-0. So it seems to me at some point, since that'll be on the warrant, that we should have just Laura come to one of our meetings to talk about it. Or is that something that we've done that in the past for petitions?
I don't know if she'll want to, but we'll try to set it up.
I'm sorry?
I don't know if she'll want to, but we'll try to set it up.
Oh, okay, okay. That this is not about the stores selling it, it's about people using it. This is my
You can
understanding.
sell it all you want, you just can't use it.
Sell all you want, just don't use it. Let me see, the other thing is, and we discussed it briefly at our last meeting about the Civics Academy. And it's going to be starting on March, let me see, I missed a page here. On March 4th, and it's going to be 10 weeks, every Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30. It's going to be meetings with the various departments in town. So I didn't know whether anybody was interested in attending. I've signed up. I think Patty, you've signed up too? Yeah.
No,
Oh, you didn't
no, I
send
did.
it?
I had
Oh,
just sent it to you. Yeah.
okay. So I
We
just
do,
wanted-
we do have, I think as of today, 15, maybe 16 people.
oh, good.
So we're nearing our limits. So if you're interested, better sign up soon or might have to shut you down. We can't have more than, the pizza budget will start to be exceeded,
I'll write down pizza budget.
which, by the way, I'm going to pay that. I'm fronting the pizza budget. I'm not making the town pay for it.
So I'm sorry, you said 15 have signed? 15?
15 or 16.
15 signed up? Okay.
And I don't want to load everybody up front. I mean, if we want to do this again next year, we need some people for next year. So
Yeah. Okay, and the only other thing I have under new business is the Climate Action Committee did put out after, I know Peter and I went to a workshop that they had here. Oh, it was last fall, I think, like November or somewhere. And they've had various meetings within the Climate Action Committee itself, going over what was discussed at that workshop. And they've now put out a climate action plan, and they have an executive summary, which I have here. And at one point, we've talked about having somebody from the Climate Action Committee come to one of our meetings to talk about what they've put together here with the Cape Cod Commission. And I didn't know whether people were interested in pursuing that further or not.
About after budget season.
After budget season, yeah, not, I don't want somebody coming in the middle of, well, we're trying to do what we're trying to do, but would people be interested in hearing what their thoughts are?
Yes.
And how it might affect us, and one of the things that I'm interested in is not only their prioritization of items or projects, but whether they've come up with a cost benefit of what, if we do this, it will cost this and it'll benefit us this much versus not benefiting us. Okay, so I'll keep that on the agenda for down the road. Is there anything else under new business that people have that they'd like to discuss? I'm going to go on to item 6, old business, the capital projects committee update, and I don't know if that's been the wastewater, and that's been the Nauset Regional High School. And we did discuss it at our last meeting, so I don't know whether the capital projects committee has met. Have you met since then?
We actually met on Tuesday.
Met on Tuesday, okay. Is there any
Yes,
update?
Update of what I can do here is Apex is revising their schedule for the next 4 months to get us to the finish line by the end of June. supposed to have that revised schedule done by next Monday or Tuesday.
Hmm.
And basically the start of the bid period is probably gonna be delayed a little bit by a few weeks. But hopefully we got enough float in the schedule to get it done in time. The state permitting remains the biggest concern, and Fred, you said today,
I hear
you hear,
the groundwater discharge and so the two permits that we absolutely needed, and you probably know this better than I, the groundwater discharge and the hydrogeo report have been promised to us by what date? March 15th?
I don't know if it was those two. I thought it was the DEP site assignment permit for the transfer station.
No. What Jackie told me today was,
Oh, okay, good. I only saw an email on that one, so
this was from Ziad.
it was from Ziad, I think.
I don't want to make sure I get the right thing, because these are too critical. If we don't have them, we're in big trouble. So, and they unfortunately have a lead time for 84 days. Is the right number?
that's what he was.
20 plus 40?
That's what he was talking about.
24 plus 40.
Yeah.
So, we need to have those permits in hand before we can get the money.
So so we have I think it'll be tomorrow. It's to be determined, either tomorrow or afternoon or Monday morning, with our OPM and GHD on a strategy session of how to approach DEP. There's two different divisions of DEP, and we got to get them talking and working together to streamline this.
Baseball bat.
And then, of course, our OPM's coming up with a revised schedule that we'd have to talk to our GHD or plant designer.
Right.
So those are two critical things that will come to a head next week. And so I'll also take that opportunity. Fred, I didn't get a chance to reply to your email, but I'll take that opportunity to
Get angry.
talk to GHD, make sure that they're on task and that, the people
Go rich on them.
working on it have that directive from their bosses.
Thank you.
Well, the only other thing is the estimates are continually being talked about. GHD is presenting the facts that they think they're within the budget. And we're still waiting confirmation from Apex that that's the case. And
They're estimated, right?
estimated, right? TCI, I think is the name of the company. And then Apex and GHD are in starting contract negotiations with the town as far as the construction portion of the contract, which would also include the procurement. That's going to be happening in the next 3 months. So it's basically it.
So are you saying that we're essentially on the proper
Tenuous.
timing? Or
Go ahead, Steve. You're not right in there.
We're on the
Kind of, sort of.
we're following the schedule that we had. We know that procurement's going to be delayed a little bit. We're concerned, like I said, about the permitting, which is going to be detrimental if we don't have that in case and done by the end of June. And after that, it's really the documents. Are they complete?
so what's the issue with the state permit?
The state,
The state,
That's the word.
yeah,
They've got timelines that by statute or regulation that allow them, certain amount of days for this, and then a certain when they do their job, then there's a certain amount of days of public comment that's provided, and so that just keeps extending. And that's what we're trying to talk about in the next couple of days. So when we talk to DEP, let them know that time is of the essence, and we know you could take whatever number of days it is, 60 days or whatever, but please don't.
Did they tell us if there's been comments?
They'll tell us, yeah.
But we don't know right now. Because most of them aren't.
Well, it hasn't been open for.
each cycle. They went
Yeah.
in on 12/19, right? So we just don't know if we've had any comments from maybe some not so happy neighbors.
But we'll make it.
I think we will. Well, they want us to see it. They want us to fail,
Good point.
So, but they have to do their job, and
right.
hopefully there's been no comments, and we can move forward.
That's it, man.
Okay, I'm looking at item B, school efficiency, and I commented on that last time, so there's no update there. The Nauset Regional School District Agreement, I don't believe there's
Nothing since last week.
no update there. And the Nauset Regional School Budget, we discussed that at our last meeting, so to my knowledge, there's no update on that unless Rich, and we did discuss at the select board when we were hoping to get the information, the budget information, and the night, was it the 19th?
Yep,
The 19th
Mhm.
of March?
yes, and actually I'll have to follow up because I've asked of particular interest of on the elementary school budget, how the central office has allocated costs, and haven't gotten anything, so I will follow up on that.
The district budget is up 4.8% at this point, and it's looking pretty firm. They got good news at the last meeting, which I didn't mention last week, and maybe you've got it by now too, about there's a pleasant surprise on the health insurance. Very
Yep.
pleasant.
I've already adjusted for that. So, that's brought some things down a little bit. Still doesn't cover what we need for an override. But don't count your chickens before they hatch. So the long and the short of it is one of the things that's driving healthcare costs is the advent of GLP-1 drugs used for weight loss, which was not a medical necessity. That's a relatively new phenomenon. And one could argue that that should never have been covered because it wasn't a medical necessity, but people did. And now that became the norm. And now that Blue Cross and Harvard Pilgrim have decided to eliminate that coverage, they eliminate coverages all the time. But this coverage is widely used, and so it's noticeable. And so the Mass Teachers Association, MTA, is going to push this issue and want all the towns and the school districts to bargain this change. And the argument is, well, it's not a change. It's we didn't get rid of it. We just didn't add a rider to allow it. That something the providers got rid of. So that's going to be a fight. And so even though I've reduced our budget for the lower rates, as you know from our year-end reviews, health insurance is one of those things that we over budget, and I'm recommending you keep that because healthcare is going to continue to go up 10 to 12 to 15% for the next foreseeable future. And we've got this issue hanging over us that's going to come to a head. Just knowing how this works. And that might not come to a head for a couple of years yet.
With the Ozempic, you mean? With
Yes.
the GLP-1?
Yeah, GLPs.
But it's going to take that long to sort out.
Yeah, because it'll probably be one of those things that you will bargain with bargaining groups over it, and you'll come to an impasse, and then you got to go to DLR at the state level. It's very labor friendly, but then you're going to have the state insurance groups probably doing the same thing. So it's going to become a political issue.
But for next year, the premium should go down because it's not going to be covered by.
Right. So the change, and that's my argument. So I've already done the math for Eastham. I don't know who, but I know the number of our total employees that have GLP-1s for non-medical reasons. And I can calculate what their out-of-pocket cost is if it not being covered, which I did, versus the differential is 8% rate currently without the GLP-1s. And if you had GLP-1s, it was going to be almost 18%. So a 10% differential. So that's a save. So when you take in that 10% savings for the employees, all the employees, based on our contribution, 35% versus what some employees lose by not having the benefit, we're far better getting the 10% reduction as a total employee group. It's not even close. So this is a much better way to go, but people use it. Everything they can get as leverage to get what they want. So despite it being the best thing for everybody, we'll have to battle it out.
Would that perhaps change the people that now aren't under our system because their spouse or something has their coverage and they would be better off under us?
Well, if we offered that in other places and almost nobody else is at this point, that might make a difference.
Okay, so we're now down to item 7, the town manager's report, and I did not have a town manager's report, or I did not receive one for the most recent select board. I sent one out that I did receive before our last meeting.
I've got a couple items, Mary. Should have a town manager's report for next week. I think Jackie, I
Yeah.
talked to Jackie about, we're working on that today.
Okay,
And I've already mentioned the fire department request, which will likely be I won't say likely, but it's putting you on notice. Again,
Yeah.
the way we budget, I'm hoping that we can accommodate this within our budget without a need for a transfer, but it's a possibility, so I'm letting you know. And the same as the snow and ice. And then I do have some big news. I want you all to know that Mira's last day with us will be next Friday.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
so she'll
I'll
So
be
she'll-
going someplace great.
she'll be here for Thursday's meeting, I think. And that'll be our last meeting.
you'll be here next Thursday, but not, and Friday is your last day of next week?
So as long as she gets the minutes out Friday morning, then she.
That's right.
But I did want you to let you know, and I want to congratulate her. I'll let her talk to you if she wants about her plans, but we're sorry to see her go.
Oh. I've enjoyed working with you.
In a journey.
Yeah. So what is that last day? That's the, next Thursday is the 26th, so it's the 27th. Leaving us high and dry, that's not very nice. Especially at this time of the year, especially at this time of the year.
That's why I just saw Laurie upstairs working in Jackie's office.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Laurie, her former,
I
Yeah.
you mean Gillespie.
Yeah.
Lori Lee Gillespie, yeah.
so she, comes in periodically.
She was helping when Erica started, she was
Yeah.
helping,
But
she was helping Erica, yeah.
she's great.
Yeah, yes, she is, yeah. Okay, I don't have any other comments, questions, items, as far as the town manager's report. And, so unless we have anything else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Patty and Roy? Was that Roy?
It was Kate, I think.
Who was it?
You raised this.
I moved, but I can second. I don't
Was it
care.
Kate? Who's,
Who did it?
one of you said something.
And Mira,
You're muted, Roy.
Mira, I was gonna show you my puppy, but now you
Uh-uh.
can't see her.
She was on earlier.
There. Okay, so
Yeah, wow.
I've got my first person to, the motion is Patty, and I will, who
Anyone want
who
to,
was the second person?
Roy,
I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
Roy raised his hand.
Right, was Roy?
Yes.
Okay, so I've got Patty and Roy. And any further discussion, all in favor of adjourning? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul, Kate, and Roy. Thank you, 9-0. And I have
6:20.
6:20?